Have you noticed how some people disappear without warning? No drama, no explanations, they're just gone. This disappearance of high-value men isn't random, it's intentional and typically permanent. While most people attribute ghosting to fear or immaturity, high-value men have a deeper motive. According to psychologist Dr. James Miller, some people choose silence because they realize words are meaningless. These men don't ghost for fun or games. They do it because they pick up on things most miss. Sometimes, the cleanest way to handle a toxic situation is to leave it. No explanations, just silence. Imagine a computer with too many programs running at once. Sometimes, a reset is necessary to function properly. High-value men treat certain relationships the same way. When things become draining, boundaries are ignored, and cycles repeat. They don't try to fix or explain. They leave. It's not the silence that unsettles people. It's the finality of it. When a high-value man ghosts, it's not a temporary break. It's a permanent deletion. Here are 7 reasons why these men disappear and why, in some cases, it's their only option. Number 1. Trust is irreparably damaged. Little lies often lead to major rifts. Small deceptions grow until the foundation cracks. These minor betrayals accumulate faster than most realize. Broken promises may start as innocent white lies or slight inconsistencies, but over time they resemble scratches on glass. Eventually, enough scratches cause it to shatter. Many mistake a high-value man's calm observation for forgiveness. They assume that if he's not reacting, he isn't noticing. In reality, he's monitoring everything, connecting dots others don't see. Trust isn't just about major betrayals. It's the small, consistent breaches that matter most. Stating you'll do something and failing, changing narratives, or making excuses all reveal patterns. When trust is broken, explanations become worthless. Since the story is already fictional, there's no point in writing the conclusion. A high-value man won't engage in futile conversations. He'll simply walk away. Number 2. Energy drain becomes too great. Have you ever noticed how some people leave you exhausted after every interaction? Like your mental battery is constantly being drained. This isn't just a feeling, it's a real psychological phenomenon. Some personalities override our brain's energy-saving mechanisms, draining us emotionally without explanation. Conversations start light, but quickly become heavy. Good news turns into drama. Brief chats morph into therapy sessions. It's like navigating a mental maze where the exit keeps moving. Initially, the drain is subtle, but over time, exhaustion sets in. You start feeling relief when plans are canceled, needing extra time to recharge after interactions. High-value men handle this differently. They don't negotiate boundaries. They recognize when a relationship is an emotional black hole and withdraw. Ghosting isn't about cruelty. It's about self-preservation. You can't pour from an empty cup, and some people have an insatiable need for more. Number 3. Boundaries are disrespected. Some boundaries shouldn't need to be explained. Respecting privacy, keeping promises, and valuing others' time. Most people understand these unwritten rules, but some push limits. They make deep-cutting jokes, break commitments, or invade privacy in subtle ways, testing reactions. High-value men handle disrespect differently. They don't argue or demand respect. They observe and remember. Every ignored boundary is mentally noted, like entries in a ledger. The first few might be forgiven. Everyone makes mistakes. But once a pattern forms, the conclusion is clear. This isn't about isolated incidents. It's about recognizing someone's fundamental nature. Ghosting happens not as punishment, but as a realization. Some people will never respect boundaries. Staying only encourages further violations. If you have to demand respect, you'll never get it. Number 4. The game's grow stale manipulation often disguises itself as concern. Guilt trips are sugar-coated as requests. Emotional games masquerade as care. These tactics might work on others, but high-value men see through them. The false emergencies that conveniently arise when they're busy, the carefully timed drama, and the calculated knowledge sharing meant to provoke reactions, it all becomes predictable. It's like watching reruns of a show where you already know every plot twist. Once enjoyable conversations turn into predictable patterns of manipulation. What once seemed clever now feels juvenile. At this point, ghosting isn't a choice, it's the only option. There's no reason to keep playing a game that's already been won. High-value men recognize that the only way to win some games is not to play at all. Number 5. Actions and words no longer align. High-value men excel at spotting inconsistencies. They view relationships like a spot-the-difference puzzle, noticing when words and actions don't match. Small discrepancies, missed commitments, repeated excuses, and unfulfilled promises begin to stack up. It's like watching a movie where the audio doesn't sync with the visuals. Each misalignment is jarring, making it impossible to ignore. Some people claim values they don't live by, preach standards they don't follow, or paint pictures of themselves that don't match reality. Once a high-value man detects this inconsistency, it's all he can see. It's like hearing an off-key song on repeat. Eventually, he has to turn it off. At this point, words become meaningless, and silence is the only response that makes sense. Number 6. They refuse to be a backup plan. Some people keep others around as an option, not a priority. They breadcrumb, maintaining just enough contact to keep someone on standby while pursuing other interests. This isn't always obvious. It can come in the form of delayed responses, inconsistent effort, or selective engagement. High-value men recognize when they're being placed on the back burner. Unlike others who might tolerate this behavior, they won't waste time waiting for someone to decide their worth. If they sense they're a placeholder rather than a priority, they remove themselves from the equation without explanation. Ghosting isn't about bitterness, it's about self-respect. They'd rather be alone than be someone's second choice. Number 7. They see the bigger picture. High-value men think long-term. They don't just consider how someone treats them today. They assess patterns over time. If a relationship shows signs of instability, manipulation, or disrespect early on, they don't wait for things to get worse. They leave before they do. They understand that some relationships aren't meant to be fixed. Trying to work through red flags often leads to wasted time and emotional damage. Rather than hoping things improve, they trust their observations and act accordingly. For them, ghosting isn't an impulsive act, it's a calculated decision. When they walk away, they do so with certainty, knowing that staying would only lead to further disappointment. Final thoughts. Ghosting by high-value men isn't about immaturity or avoidance. It's about self-preservation. They recognize when a situation is beyond repair, when trust is broken, when energy is drained, and when boundaries are crossed. Rather than wasting time on explanations that won't change anything, they choose silence. Their disappearance isn't a temporary pause, it's a permanent exit. And while many may question their reasons, one thing is clear: once they're gone, they don't look back.